Hey, welcome back, folks, to the Uncultured Cinematic Universe. Every episode, we take a look at classic and iconic films from two perspectives, that of the die-hard fan and that of the uncultured, who's never seen it before until now. We're your hosts, Justin and Joe, and today we're going to be discussing the non-traditional romantic comedy drama from 2003, Lost in Translation.
Everything about this is non-traditional.
You know what? I love that so much about it. I have a big section of my notes about that I wanted to talk about the non-traditionalness that is this movie.
This movie said traditions
Get
get
it out of here.
lost.
Yeah. As a reminder, you can watch us on YouTube or listen to us wherever you get your podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and the like. Just search for the Uncultured Cinematic Universe, and also find us on Instagram at UCU Podcast for uh, cocktail recipes and hints of what's to come and behind the scenes looks. Lots of good stuff in there,
It's
right,
like
Joe?
50% cocktail recipes, yeah.
At this point, yeah. So yeah.
Right.
Without further ado, let's hop on a transcontinental flight, cozy up, and make it Suntory time with Lost in Translation. Joe, I can't believe you haven't seen this before.
Justin, I consider myself somewhat of a not a film buff, a movie person. When
Mm-hmm.
we go to trivia and there's a question that comes up about movies, people tend to look at me, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, they do.
Correct me? Yes. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so that being said, I thought I had seen more Sofia Coppola films than I actually have, just because she's such a name in the
She's
industry
such a name.
from the Francis Ford Coppola
Of
family.
right.
She's won Oscar. She's made all these great films. I have seen one Sofia Coppola movie, and it was The Beguiled. I saw that
Oh.
in theaters.
Oh wow.
That movie is wild and kind of rocks. But it was a very kind of a random watch for me.
Yeah, I never saw that. I've never even actually heard of it. I'm more familiar with her earlier works. This one, The Virgin Suicides,
Hmm.
her debut, that kind of thing. That's what I picture when I hear Sofia Coppola.
Right.
But
So was this kind of your first introduction to Sophia? Like when did you see Lost in Translation when it was coming out?
so, all right. So this movie was released September 12th, 2003. I was, let's see, carry the two. I was 16 at the time. I didn't see this movie. Um, Rated R, obviously. There's some boobage.
There's a couple scenes, yeah.
There's some rough language in there. So as a 16-year-old, I can't go to the theater and see that. And also, as we've established in previous episodes, I was kind of like a shit teenager watching these kind of raunchy movies. As a 16-year-old, I didn't appreciate le film, as it were. And that's what I hold firm that's what this movie is. This movie is quintessentially le film, you know?
Yes. I
Uh, yeah,
I knew this movie more as a Bill Murray movie than a Sofia Coppola movie, actually.
sure.
Like just in my knowledge of it, because this is the only time that he's been nominated for an acting Oscar.
Is it? That's
Yeah,
amazing.
no. And then it's also Scarlett Johansson's long string of almost Oscar misses up until a couple years back when she was nominated twice in the same year. So that's kind of what my initial impression of it was, is that this is just kind of a moment in Oscar history, awards history. And I didn't even realize this until I actually Googled the film this past week, but Sofia Coppola became the third woman to be nominated for Best Director for this movie. I didn't
That's
realize
incredible.
the club. I thought she missed out on that one.
That's incredible. Love that.
Yeah.
Speaking of loving that I wanted to let's bubble it up a second.
Let's
So
talk about
let's
themes.
talk about themes. All right. So last month, the month of January in 2023, we did firsts. It's the first of the year, the start of new things. We did my first solo co-ed movie theater experience. Joe, it was his first memory JPEG snapshot of being in a theater with his family. So mine was Can't Hardly Wait. Joe's was, of course, A Bug's Life. So we wanted to keep the train going in terms of themes. So the what do you think of when it's February? It's a new month. You think of love, and truth be told, I looked through the Excel spreadsheet that we had. Shout out Microsoft, get work done.
Mhm.
Um, Looked at the Excel spreadsheet that we made to like cross reference. Had we seen this movie? Had we not? Can we categorize it? And out of all like the romancy, lovey type of stories that jumped out to me that Joe hadn't seen was this one.
Mhm.
And I was like, this is perfect. Lost in Translation, I think, in my opinion, is a really neat subversion of the romantic comedy drama type of movie. It fits a lot of the tropes, but it really bucks the system in several unique ways.
it it fits the tropes, but it's almost like the inverse of a lot of the tropes. So it's like the piece that fits into the trope. If is any of this making sense? Like it's very
Nope.
much like negative of the romantic comedy drama genre.
Yeah, you're right. It's okay, I see what you're saying now. Yeah. I'm picking up what you're putting down. It's the mirror version. It's the mirrored reflection of
Mhm.
what you could see the opposite version of this movie being made and it working out completely differently. So instead of set in Tokyo, it's set in San Francisco. And instead of like an older guy, younger girl, it's a little bit opposite. They end up together, that kind of thing. It's a little bit more straightforward. The comedy and yucks are a little bit more over the top as opposed to a little bit more subdued. There's probably a little less drama and like existentialism plugged into it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
one of the bigger notes I read up on this film was like they weren't necessarily building a typical romantic arc. Like there wasn't going to be some sort of like major obstacle in their way. There wasn't going to be like them reuniting and walking off into the sunset at the end. It was more just about like two people being lost in this vast sea of isolation and finding very focused, very kind of brief points of connection.
Yeah.
And then how we as an audience can start to recognize that connection as a form of love
Yeah.
in a way, if even if we haven't always seen it like that
Right.
on screen.
It's definitely the non-traditional. We keep coming back to that of, they there's I was reading a bunch of articles and stuff on it. So there's no like definitive consummation, P to Veen kind of
Mhm.
love making scene, that kind of thing. It's very more subtle in that way, and it's more about smaller
Mhm.
interactions and sharing through an experience of feeling alone and stuff like that. But I thought this was an interesting choice to kickstart the month of February. The theme is love, and yeah, I think there's a lot to glean from this movie in terms of that theme. And I'm actually really excited for your turn in the coming weeks to see that movie, which we'll touch on a little bit later.
I'll preview at the end here.
I can't wait. But yeah, let me hit you with some numbers here. So yeah, like I mentioned, this movie was released September 12th, 2003. I was a sophomore in high school when this came out. This movie's 102 minutes. It's a tight, hour and a half ish. It's pretty great.
It's a
Joe,
pretty good one.
yeah, it moves at a pretty good clip, but we'll talk more about the some of the bits about the filmography of it a little later. Joe, the budget was $4 million. What would you guess the box office was?
I'm gonna say it was. Are you looking at domestic or just worldwide?
No comment. I don't know. I just took the number straight off of Wikipedia. I can't tell you.
Oh, if it's Wikipedia, then it's worldwide.
Okay.
I'm gonna say it's above 80.
It is above 80. It was $118.7 million box office.
Damn, good for
Pretty
some.
cool.
Yeah,
Pretty cool. Good for Sophia. Yeah, she definitely did it with this one.
yeah.
Uh,
It's a subversion in like 8 different ways because it's a subversion of the genre. People hadn't necessarily seen a more independent feeling story like this on so many screens at once. You know, you kind of think it's an awards play. It's almost a blockbuster hit in certain ways. It made over $100 million, but it's also definitely an uncommon independent film. Um, but then it's also a subversion of I guess the kind of the public image of Bill Murray too.
Yeah.
Just 'cause he'd never really done this sort of thing before, at least
Hmm.
from my knowledge, been that much of an awards player. Um, and then I think he was in like, what was it, Rushmore, that he got some attention for Wes Anderson, but this was kind of the big hit for him.
Yeah.
And it was also probably a subversion of Sofia Coppola, because like you got to think like in terms of her career, she started out earning like winning multiple Razzie awards for her performance in like The Godfather Part 3, which I've never even
Yeah.
seen, but like I
Me
always think
neither.
of her as part of that. I don't think she was very popular in that one. But
But yeah,
obviously she comes from this huge Hollywood family, and she's made a few hit movies before this, but I think this is where she really hits with the public and with the awards season as
yeah,
well.
this was a big time award sweetheart for sure.
Mhm.
But yeah, you mentioned, her dad, Francis Ford Coppola, 5-time Academy Award winner, 2-time Palme d'Or, BAFTA winner, this kind of guy, heavy hitter, Godfather, the whole series, 1, 2, and 3, Apocalypse Now, The Outsiders. I don't know why I put that one in there. I thought that was hilarious that he did that.
I love The Outsiders.
And Bram Stoker's Dracula. I love that one too.
Oh yeah.
That one's great. Um, but yeah, she swung for the fences with this one with a mildly low budget of $4 million,
Hmm.
shooting on location, that kind of thing. Um, yeah, wrote this after spending some time in Tokyo and really wanted to write about two characters experiencing a quote romantic melancholy. And I think that's so just like on the head of what this is. It's there's bits of love and adoration that you can see in the eyes and the chemistry that they're playing with back and forth, but it definitely has that foreboding, like heavy feeling of sadness and loss and misdirection and stuff like that.
Hmm. You know what
But
film I think of as kind of like a weird sister film to this is came out around the same time, Garden State,
oh
which
yes,
which they both seem to be doing the same things, except Garden State is kind of heightened in every possible direction, both in terms of like how in your face it is with its themes, but also like, it's got that kind of iconic soundtrack that's maybe a little bit overrated. I think Garden State has
whoa whoa
probably
whoa 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 whoa.
crested being overrated by now, whereas Lost in Translation is still pretty, how do we
Pretty
say it,
tight.
rated at this point.
Yeah, right. So yeah, Garden State was one of my like early college years movie of like, oh, this is what movies can be. Oh
I
my
love
God.
Garden State.
Yeah, and I remember it blowing my young mind. But yeah, I haven't returned to it
Hmm.
since my early late teens, early 20s. So I don't know how it holds up, but I do remember watching this movie probably like way after it came out. I think maybe around 2009 or so I watched this. So
Hmm.
6 years after the fact. Um, you know, Scarlett Johansson had already become a household name. This is pre Iron Man 2. This is pre Marvel Universe.
Hmm.
She went on to do several other things, but looking back at this, I think this holds up a whole lot better and has holds a lot more, unique themes that as an adult you can appreciate and you can glom onto
Yeah.
a lot more. Things that we talked about already, like alienation, not knowing where you fit in the world and all that kind of stuff.
I
Uh,
think I think so often on this podcast we tend to like close read films, like we're kind of in ninth grade English and we're like writing a paper on it and stuff.
yeah, yeah.
And I have my ultimate thesis for this movie that I landed on, and I was like, hell yeah, A plus. But I'll get to that after the plot description, because I want to kind of set the stage here.
As long as the phrase "when it comes down to it" is in there, I am gonna be pleased. Cool. Yeah. So before we get to the plot, let's jump in and look at this trailer. I think this is the original trailer. It's got some good stuff to it. Yeah.
Mhm.
Let's dig in here.
For relaxing times, make it Suntory time.
カットカットカットカット時間がないんだよ、ね、パッションがカメラテンション上げて
with intensity.
Is that everything? I mean, it seemed like you said more than that.
Mr. Bob Harris よう来たなボブ
You're a movie star.
Yes,
Movie
I
pack,
should be
movie
doing
star.
movies.
Yeah. You know Rat Pack?
Rat Pack?
Rat Pack.
A ring-a-ding-ding?
Mr. Harris, Mr. Kazo sent me my stockings. Lick them.
What?
Hey, lick my stockings.
Lip them? What? What are you doing?
My husband's a photographer, so he's here working. I wasn't doing anything, so I came along.
What do you do?
I'm not sure yet, actually. So what are you doing here?
Getting paid $2 million to endorse a whiskey. The good news is the whiskey works. Can you keep a secret? I'm trying to organize a prison break. We'd have to first get out of this bar, then the city, and then the country. Are you in or are you out?
I'm in.
How are you? I'm Bob.
You're probably just having a midlife crisis. Did you buy a Porsche yet?
You know, I was thinking about buying a Porsche.
I just don't know what I'm supposed to be.
You'll figure that out. The more you know who you are and what you want, the less you let things upset you.
You really are having a midlife crisis, huh?
Ooh, coming soon, Joe. Can you believe it? Can you feel it?
It was a very 2003, 2004 thing to have like a sometimes statement on your poster. Something like I would absolutely expect like a lesser version of this film to have like sometimes you gotta get a little lost before you can be found.
Yeah. Before you can translate.
Sometimes you gotta talk before you can walk.
Lost in translation. Like it missed the overdub voice guy.
Oh my gosh, an overdubbed voice on that trailer.
Yeah. Reading the words that are on the screen. That's what trailers are missing these days.
So let's talk about the elephant in the room. This movie is primarily, first and foremost, about how tall Bill Murray is, right?
There's several jokes hinting at his hilarious height. I don't know how tall he is. At least 6 feet, I imagine. But yeah, there's a
he's
couple jokes in
he's
there.
a big guy.
But yeah, so I love that trailer. It picks up some of the soundtrack vibes, and it kind of paints a really good picture of what to expect from this movie.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so before we dive any deeper, Joe, and while it's fresh on your brain, you got the visuals in there. Let's do the plot. You mentioned that this plot is going to be messy and hard, and I don't think so.
I think it's going to be deceptively hard because there's not a lot of plot, and so you have to pick a little bit above that. Like, what am I going to actually focus on here?
What are you even going to say? I want you to really focus in on that.
I'm going to try not to get lost in like the first 20 minutes of the film.
Describing the hotel ad nauseum. Okay.
I'm already so stressed out.
Don't worry about it. Here we go, Joe. We're going to give you 1 minute, and you're going to explain the plot of Lost in Translation. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Here we go. On your market, psycho.
Okay. Bill Murray plays an past his prime actor who is doing work in Tokyo. He's experiencing a lot of actual lost in translation moments because he can't really understand people around him. He's very isolated. He feels isolated from his family. He feels isolated from his career. He feels isolated literally from the world around him because he doesn't speak the language. He encounters Scarlett Johansson's character, who is a newly married woman just out of college who is also feeling similar feelings of isolation because her celebrity photographer husband is kind of always literally running out of the room to go to a new job.
Yep.
They form a connection over their shared isolation, and they find little pockets of connection and shared feelings as they travel around this hotel and around Tokyo. And it ends with a bit of a confirmation of their love for one another that's not necessarily consummated in any way.
Yep. Love that. I love that that's what you took away from it. Yeah, you nailed all the high level stuff, as opposed to like explaining the plot of what happens.
It is a hard film to describe. And as I was thinking about it, like the official genre for this film is probably like romantic comedy drama, right?
100%. Yes.
But it's kind of interesting how, at least from my viewing of it, like how separate those three elements are within the film. It's almost like a part one, part two, part three.
Yes.
Because the movie starts with Bill Murray's Bill Murray doing working with these Japanese translator and these Japanese directors and photographers and a masseuse slash maybe high class sex worker who
Maybe.
is paid to
Maybe.
come to his room. And that's where a lot of the humor is, right? So
Yeah.
I found the best parts of the movie to be where, regardless of probable stereotypes that are being used
Yeah.
wrong ways here, just a little bit, where things are literally getting lost in translation. I thought that's where Bill Murray kind of shined,
Mm-hmm.
especially in the the montages almost of him, the director going back and forth behind the camera and literally screaming at him, trying to get him into character, but then shouting at the top of his lungs in a foreign language, immediately shocking him out of it. Him not knowing what the director wants because all he's getting is like 3 different words from his translator. And then that followed by um, him in a photo shoot where the photographer is kind of like throwing American references at him that don't necessarily land in
Yep.
terms of the direction. I thought it was, I thought it was kind of great. I thought it was maybe showing a side of a foreign country where they don't necessarily have to know everything about America. They don't have to be obsessed with Americans. Like they probably don't know much about Bill Murray as an actor.
Right.
And so it makes sense that they're not really going to connect that much with him. And so that's kind of the comedic element of the film that pretty quickly transfers over into the dramatic element where it's Scarlett Johansson's scenes right after that. She's like literally feeling physically isolated from the city and also isolated within her relationship.
Yep.
She and her husband do not have a shared language at all, do not have a rapport. They're basically weird coworkers at this point. I don't know.
Yeah. Like, what did she see
Wondering
in him?
how they possibly got together.
Yeah.
But her moments aren't necessarily comedic, but they do highlight the different types of isolation that a person can feel, especially if you're jet lagged and you're halfway around the world from where you normally live, right?
Yeah.
And then all of that kind of comes together into the romance area, which is obviously highlighted as a different type of romance. Like
Right.
this movie explores what exactly romance and love can mean, uh, regardless of how long you've known someone, regardless of age difference, regardless of life difference, regardless of the directions your lives are going.
Yeah.
What does it mean to cross paths with someone, and how much of a meaningful interaction does it have to be in order to count as loving someone?
Yeah. I think you absolutely is this your thesis?
No.
This was the oh no. Oh man, I can't
No,
wait.
I can get into my thesis.
Okay, yeah, so that's the body part of the paragraph that I love right there. It definitely breaks down each of those sections and pretty much like you said, part 1, part 2, part 3, the culmination
Mhm.
at the end being some of the romance. They're the comedic elements, there's the dramatic pieces, and then how it all comes together at the end with the romance.
Mhm.
That's a fantastic call out there, Joe. I wanted to talk about like the connection to this movie and why we chose it. So I kind of talked already that this was an interesting one that popped out in our list of something that you hadn't seen. Couldn't believe you hadn't seen it because there's not a lot of traditional like romance love stories on there. So to fit the theme, that's why I chose
Mhm.
it.
Mhm.
But I do love this movie because of things we've talked about already. Is the subversion of it. It's not the traditional physical, rom com kind of formula. It's very earnest, and to me, like I said, this is le film. This is the auteur filmmaker's movie to me. This movie, Joe, is more of a vibe than a movie.
Hmm.
It's got the interesting transitions. It's got the soundtrack to push it forward. It's got
Fuck the
y-
pain away.
yeah, fuck the pain away, which is a highlight to me, right in the middle of the movie. Shout out to Peaches at Peaches. Is she still around? Probably. Um, but yeah, the attention to the framing, the pacing, the slice of lifeness.
Hmm.
It's not a traditional, beat A to beat B kind of move, that kind of stuff. It feels kind of, and that's what I like about it, is the independentness, the indie feel of it. And I think you also nailed it too, of the sister movie of Garden State, feeling in the same kind of way. Um, One thing I called out too, that this most recent go round, to me, this movie feels voyeuristic in a
Mm.
way. You get that feeling when you watch other people uh, being uncomfortable and you feel uncomfortable for them, that embarrassment. You kind of get some of that here, because it's very slice of lifey. It's like you are just plopped down in this the hotel, and you're kind of just shadowing these people as they have this weird happenstance kind of
Our
thing.
two main characters are watching each other, and then together they're watching other people, and then we're watching them doing all this watching. Yes.
Yeah, it feels weird in a certain sense, and it's kind of unnerving in that way. And I think I like that. But I that's what I really dig about this. It's the emotional intimacy and finding that familiarity in an unfamiliar place. So all that to say, so like Joe, I'm not well traveled, and I think you are. So I couldn't kind of connect on some of the jet lagginess and feeling completely out of place in a foreign country.
Hmm.
Have you ever experienced anything like that? I know that you've traveled a bunch and you've been to multiple
I've
places, but
I've been to places in Europe that tend to speak English more than most countries, most foreign countries, and so there's kind of an easiness there. But I can definitely relate to jet lag kind of fucking you up for weeks on end.
yeah,
um, you're always tired, and whatever energy you have, whatever zest for exploration you may have had at home is not necessarily there. And there's also a weird pressure because you feel like you're in this place for the first and only time, and you have to go explore, you have to experience life to the fullest, and so you're kind of set up at your worst a little bit
yeah,
to go and have this one time experience. um, and I think you can see pieces of that in this film. Like there's a physical element of jet lag definitely present throughout this film because they literally can't sleep a lot, and that's what they first bond over. It
yeah,
seems.
yeah. And I think that's a unique kind of device to kind of kickstart a lot of the other stuff, to explore the city, to kind of just get a slice of what Tokyo is all about.
Hmm.
I've never had any kind of desire to see Japan or Tokyo. Um, I know people who do, but it's not particularly my my bag. And I think we touched on this earlier. Of this movie definitely kind of toes the line of a little bit of racist tropes here and there.
Yeah,
So
it's
this
it's
mo-
painting with a pretty wide brush when it comes.
absolutely. So I'm sure Japan as a whole has a lot more to offer than this one particular media instance. Um, but who's to say? Maybe that could be a neat little trip to take
Yeah.
eventually down the line. Joe, let's take a pause here, and so for relaxing times, Bob wants us to think of Santori time, and I wanted to cheers to you with this nice little cocktail here. Um, oh, I'm so glad you did one too, even though it's 4:30 in the afternoon, 5 o'clock. So I'm gonna go first. What this is, this here is a Japanese old fashioned.
Ooh. Okay.
Yeah. So I made some homemade ginger syrup, and using that to incorporate in here. So in here we got a cube of sugar, 2 slices of ginger muddled with some bitters, throw in some of that ginger syrup, a little bit of bourbon on top, orange slice. Centauri time right here. This is just a Japanese old fashioned. That's good.
I also obviously took inspiration from the Centauri Times scene, which is where the alcohol is highlighted most in this film, I would say. And just like what Roger Moore drinks in many of his films, I made a bourbon sour,
Ooh,
which is bourbon mixed with lemon juice and simple syrup.
that's what a bourbon sour is.
That's what my bourbon sour is,
Okay.
and I'm calling it a Roger Moore.
Ooh, I like that. You tend to go for people names with your
Mm.
cocktails, and I think that is fantastic and 100% on brand.
I like to associate someone's pre-existing memory and feelings of a person with a drink that I create.
Yeah, yeah. So we can add this to the roster with the Leslie Bibbs of the world,
Leslie Bibb was iconic, yeah.
yeah, and Roger Moore here. That was honestly that was a good call out. That was a hilarious joke. I think they wanted Roger Moore, and he's like, well, he drinks more martinis, but that'll work.
Oh,
Um, Bill Murray being able to just Bill Murray his way through this movie um, carries a lot of weight. I
hmm
think. Obviously, he was able to um, improv a lot of his lines. This movie didn't have a ton of like scripted kind of interaction. You can see that in some of the shots. It's kind of just like carryover shots or things like that.
He's
Some of it feels like a music video to me.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. He's playing much more of a straight man than you see in his regular movies, but then a little bit of like the classic Bill Murray comes out when he's like acting in these commercials, and
mhm.
so you start to realize like, oh, it takes some skill to do a Bill Murray impression here.
Yeah, you're right.
Which is essentially what he's doing. He's doing the little cocked eyebrow. He's doing that little like smarmy look at the camera.
Yeah.
He's kind of it's a fun way to allow him to show off his range as an actor by being an actor in this film.
So you're saying Bill Murray is playing Bob, who's playing Bill Murray in a
Is this supposed
sense.
to be a washed up Bill Murray character? No, I
I
think
think,
I think he's actually more of like a '70s television star or something.
yeah, yeah. Which I think is a neat kind of thing. Anytime in movies or whatever, when an actor has to play like a washed up version of an actor, I was like, is
hmm
that usually like a death knell for them? Do they feel weird? That kind of thing. I don't know.
Yeah, I,
So let's dive into some of these themes and cult status and things like that, and then we can talk about your thesis here, because
my
this will
thesis is growing like as we speak.
hey
It's
man,
mutating.
thank you. Yeah, yeah, growing, not showing. I appreciate it, Joe. Uh, yeah, so romantic melancholy, I think, is a really great way to kind of describe the relationship between Bob and Charlotte. There, like I mentioned, there's that feeling of sadness that they both bring. Um, you can feel the loss, you can feel the lack of direction and the sadness in these characters, and I think that's what makes it really human.
hmm
And as an adult now, you can kind of be like, oh, I totally would feel the same way in the same boat,
hmm
as opposed to like when you're younger, you watch this movie because it's like a cool movie to watch. You're just like, oh, it's funny and it's got cute Scarlett Johansson, which on rewatch she was 17 at the time, so that changes a whole lot of.
Okay, I was wondering because she's always like shockingly younger than you think she is. So she
Hmm.
was 17 when filming this.
Yeah, playing like a 22, 23 year old,
Yeah.
which Sophia and everybody had kind of reservations with. I was like, can you play an older character? And she does it really convincingly well.
hmm
Um,
Yeah, this movie's very much about two people hitting juncture points in their lives. It's almost, if you can boil it down to like a midlife crisis is meeting a quarter life crisis, and they're finding ways to relate within that. They both have um, baggage in a certain way where they have these societal expectations to uh, love their families, love their relationships, but maybe they're not really getting what they need out of their relationships. And so they're very much open for business in terms of like finding those relationships elsewhere.
Yeah. It's can we just first just normalize quarter life crises?
Yeah.
That is the perfect juncture in time to start to question your life. And I think it's becoming obviously more normalized now with these up and coming generations, these young whippersnappers. You're 22, 23 years old coming out of college. You think you know what you want to do, but is it really what you want to do?
Mm-hmm.
Are these your real friends? Are these the people you want to spend your life with? That kind of stuff. Is this career path yours? And then, you tack on another 25 years to that. Bob and I think Bill Murray was also at about like 50-ish years old when he filmed this.
Mm-hmm.
Similar kind of thing. You hit another midlife point of, I've been doing this adult lifestyle for so long, and now you see it. He's kind of a washed up actor. He's not like who he used to be. He's doing these weird kind of like commercials for this whiskey across the world. Like he's not really connecting with it, but he's trying to get paid and try to get a job for it. It's an interesting thing to start the movie on.
Yeah, these crises are basically just like performance review check-ins with yourself every 25 years or something.
To put a corporate view on it. Yeah.
Well, we talked about how obviously this movie is about like small touch points of connection and how those can be um, intense enough to be considered love in a way,
Yeah.
right? If you within the right context. But I think this movie does a pretty good job of like setting up what's required in order for those connections to happen. So let me I'm trying to like vocalize this thought.
Yeah.
So the title of the film is Lost in Translation, and we get a lot of that in a pretty obvious way in the
Yep.
first parts of the film. Again, like some of the more comedic moments that I was talking about, where it's literally people speaking different languages, and he's getting 10% of what's coming through
Yep.
via a translator. And then kind of the next branch out, which is where you start to see a lot of the connections between him and Scarlett Johansson, is like in his own interpersonal relationships. So much is getting lost in translation because he's trying to maintain this relationship with his wife and kids who are on the other side of the world, but you feel that like because he's not physically there, because they're not physically here with him, so much of the meaningfulness of that relationship is being lost. It's kind of
Yeah.
fading away just because you need to be physically there with someone in order to have this type of connection. And the same goes for Scarlett Johansson. Like she's not getting what she needs from her husband. They're not able to set up a solid bond because he's either literally physically not there or he's like sleeping. There's so many shots of him just like sleeping next to her. There's just they're not
Connecting.
taking the time to connect. And so you it all kind of builds to a point where it almost feels inevitable, and it makes perfect sense that they would find each other, even though he's twice her age, he's more than twice her age. They're not really in the same worlds at all they're doing is like occupying the same hotel together, but they both recognize in each other um, everything that is required in order to have a love connection, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. Like they're speaking the same language, they're on the same wavelength, they're both physically here, they're both seeing within each other what is needed and what's been missing in their current experiences, even if it's in the past week or so.
Right. Yeah. It's literally two lost souls finding each other
Mhm.
in a weird foreign place. And had this movie taken place, or this instance taken place in a more familiar area, like if they were in a layover in Oklahoma City, shout out Oklahoma, if they were there, like would it have been as meaningful, or
Mhm.
would it have been as impactful? um, because they literally are like on their own kind of islands, but they find out that they're on the same island
I
together.
mean,
Like it's interesting.
there's a moment at the end of the film where he's able to recognize her in a crowd because she literally stands out from the crowd
Yeah.
because of her hair color, and that's when he chases her down and they have their final hug. God, I had another. deep thought, but I completely forgot.
Oh, it's all good. Let's. So, was that most of your thesis, or have we not even scratched your
No,
thesis
no.
yet?
Let me. I feel like there's too much buildup happening here. Let me just. So, what I was thinking is while watching this is, I had trouble with some of the characters throughout
Okay.
the film
Okay. Let's talk
because
about it.
I thought while watching this, maybe more so with the Scarlett Johansson type than with the Bill Murray character, is like they seem kind of maybe a little too mopey. Maybe they're not really just like taking the initiative to find happiness within their own lives, which is an insane generalization to make. There's
Yes, it
a
is.
lot of crazy things happening,
Uh-huh.
obviously, but I couldn't really connect or relate to a lot of what they were doing.
So
But then
you're saying Scarlett Johansson's character.
both of them to an extent, but maybe her more than Bill Murray.
Sure, sure. Okay. Continue.
Um, and I couldn't really relate. It's they seemed like maybe not the most enjoyable people to be around, just because they
Sure.
were a little bit too obsessed with their own isolation. Um, but there were certain moments, like when Bill Murray is having these interactions with the Japanese people, when they're doing karaoke with Scarlett Johansson, when Scarlett Johansson is exploring the temples around the city and is really finding some insight there. There were certain moments where like I found myself more engaged with the film, and so in the same way that Scarlett Johansson and Bill Murray are isolated as characters in this film and find moments of connection with each other, and they're all the more important because of that. I was a little isolated from the film while
Ooh.
watching the film, but I found those moments of connection and they were more important. They stood out more to me. I remember them more because of that heightened feeling. So the ultimate thesis here I'm saying is that like the audience is definitely brought in to that experience of isolation and connection
Yeah.
in a way.
Yeah, you're going along the journey with them. So like when they start to connect, you connect more with them too. Is
Right.
kind of what you're saying. Like I threw this up because I loved that scene during the trailer of it's the iconic shot of her head on his shoulder. She's got
Hmm.
the pink wig on and he's got his legs crossed and they're just sitting there sharing a tender moment. And that's really when they connect.
Hmm.
Um, there's a shot also like in the scene prior when they're in the karaoke bar doing the thing and he's singing uh not what's so funny about peace, love, and understanding. It's the other one. I can't remember. But the way that she looks at him,
Hmm.
and it's not fuck me eyes. It's like look at this person. It's
It's
it, it's it's beautiful.
it's interesting because like about halfway through this film, once we established like yeah, these two characters have chemistry, I kind of didn't know where it was going to go from there. Like, are we kind of waiting for them to have some sort of torrid love affair, and they're going to be playing around in the sheets or something like that? And I think the film is obviously like very aware of what it's kind of disrupting
Yeah.
there in terms of like not really having turning this into a typical sexual romantic relationship, but exploring that same intensity, that same love in different ways based off of what each of these characters really need in their
Yeah.
lives.
Yeah, it really comes down to emotional availability, which obviously neither of them are getting from their partners. Like
Hmm.
you mentioned, Charlotte's uh I forget his name. But
Bob,
Frank,
Bob,
well, no. Her husband, her new
oh,
husband, Frank from Friends,
sure,
uh, Phoebe's brother.
Giovanni
Uh,
Ribisi.
yep, that guy. Is just unavailable, either
Mhm.
physically or definitely emotionally
Like
unavailable.
hilariously so.
He's coming in off the high, off the work, and he's talking about all this stuff, and he's really excited about it, but he's not connecting
Hmm.
with her, and he's not listening to her, and he's not picking up on obvious things of like, hey, you're hanging around here by yourself. Like, that's not good. You're a
Mm.
philosophy major. Obviously, you live in your head. Like, what more can we do? But
This
work is all important to him.
this movie is about the importance of being physically present in certain cases. Like if
It's
we talk
being,
about, oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, it's being physically present and emotionally available. And
Yeah.
that's the big intangible thing that most like young relationships and younger people don't grasp onto a little bit till a little bit later, is that emotional intimacy.
Hmm.
That's really missing, and it's that subtlety, it's that gray area, and that's where Bill Murray and Scarlett Johansson are able to kind of play off each other, and that's where they find that connection. Because you see in the interactions with Bob and his wife, she's very, she sucks, you know.
It's
She's
he's
just the
talking about
worst.
a lot.
She's so passive aggressive, and so just like, hey, whatever, the kids are getting used to not seeing you ever, but maybe you'll come home eventually. It's like, who even
I
wants to come home to that?
I loved how every interaction with her was just another example of like, let's check back in on the theme of this movie. The title of this movie being Lost in Translation. He's on the phone with her, and he's kind of missing the fact that it's morning over there and they're having breakfast because he's not physically there. And then there's also the many moments in this film that I loved where a fax machine is being used to just have a conversation. People are writing things on paper and faxing them to Bob and to Charlotte at a certain
Multiple
point. Is her
points,
name
yeah.
Charlotte?
Yep.
Charlotte. Um, and it's kind of like a perverse form of texting because so much of the emotion, so much of the need behind the text is just lost and
Lost. Yeah.
flattened out literally on
Hmm.
paper,
Yeah.
even though she's only asking him about carpet shades.
Yeah. It's so ridiculous. For our younger listeners, faxing is an outdated technology that we used to use, and I never used it. I faxed like a thing once in my professional career. It's like you send a message or a document
Hmm.
through the phone line. It's really weird.
Maybe it's because it was Japan, but I thought like 2003 even was like too late for people to be faxing. Like, were people faxing in 2003?
I guess so. I mean, we were still faxing when we worked together in 2017.
There's so much faxing. I've never sent a fax in my entire life.
It's so goddamn confusing, and I don't understand it. But yeah, the this movie hits on so many things, and I've grown to really appreciate it in my older
Hmm.
years. A lot of the subtleties that are at play.
I,
I wanted to talk about some of the standout scenes and shots
yeah.
from this. So I know you texted me this last night when you were watching it, and you said immediately, and this is the first note I have, is him on the elliptical
Oh, it's so funny.
is so fucking funny.
He's got a lot of physical comedy in this movie.
He
Like, he's
does.
falling all over the place.
Yeah, and like we've all been there on an elliptical machine and feeling like this is where I die. I die somehow by
Do I have control of this? Is my corpse going to look good when they find it?
probably because I've been sweating and I'm doing
Yeah.
the cardio. Yeah. Yeah, so I already mentioned the karaoke scene where they're hanging out with Charlie Brown and that whole crew.
Hmm.
Obviously I've never been to Tokyo or Japan, but that's very Tokyo.
Hmm.
Right, is the karaoke lounge, the karaoke bar where it's a pod where you hang out with people and you just sing songs in a room, which seems pretty neat if you're into that kind of thing. But yeah, it leads into that iconic, wonderful shot of her head on his shoulder, and I think they use that on a bunch of movie posters or whatever. But I love that scene so much,
Hmm.
and then that leads into my all-time favorite scene of this movie, which is after that they hop in the cab and they're driving back to the hotel, and then the song "Sometimes" by My Bloody Valentine is playing, and that's the feeling of a music video, and it definitely fits the mood to me completely. And that was the first time when I saw this movie in 2008, 2009, or whatever, and I heard that song for the first time. I was like, "Oh my god, this is incredible!" And what is this genre? What is this band? And that was my introduction to this 1991 album. by My Bloody Valentine,
Hmm.
and I just love that so much. And that's the one thing that I'm going to always remember forever from this movie is that scene, that song, that whole transition right there.
Yeah, from what I've read, like books have been written trying to analyze this film, starting with the opening shot of the film, which is 35 seconds of ass crack, baby.
Yeah, but
Uh,
then you go, oh my God, she's 17. Uh,
which and you read up on it, and people are trying to figure out like what does it mean? Are we trying to like make the viewer kind of examine their own uh, discomfort here because
mhm.
it lingers for so long, and it kind of becomes a combination of that, but also like what we've been saying is that Sofia Coppola was just trying to go for a vibe here.
Just bucking the
There-
system. Yeah,
she's trying to just create an atmosphere, create it's like you're watching an album almost. It's just
yeah.
like how does this make you feel really?
So
We're not trying to define anything.
so from a visual perspective, um, we're dancing around it. Of she's making really conscious decisions to make unique shots and carryover stuff, making it feel like a music video, make it feel like a vibe, that
Hmm.
kind of stuff. So the way that they were able to accomplish that is they used a lot of available light as much as possible. So familiar with that from The Revenant, using only daylight to shoot, no lighting crews or anything like that. Wherever they could possibly use it, they would use the natural ambient light of the Tokyo cityscape or internal shots, and that's why some of the and I noticed this, like a lot of the scenes are sometimes a little blurry, a little out of focus,
Hmm.
and that only plays more into the earnestness, um, the genuineness feeling of this that I get from it, and then
Yeah.
even more of that voyeuristic kind of take because like your eyes are only playing with what's in the room or
and,
the kind of focusing in and out on what's happening, and yeah,
and not
it's I
that,
love
but
it.
the camera is so clearly handheld
Yeah,
in certain shots as well.
yeah, it
Um,
feels good.
it feels
um
like someone walking up and down with it.
mhm. Another shot that I love is another iconic one that could be an album cover, is them laying in the bed and her in the fetal position with her feet just barely touching him, and
Hmm.
him laying there, and then his hand on her foot. Um it's beautiful, I think.
Yeah, that's obviously the moment in the film where like the movie makes an active choice to not have them sleep together or anything like that, and it's a bit of a disruption of the genre. But at this point, you're kind of expecting that, yeah, because you kind of realize that this is not a typical romantic film, and there were a couple moments similar to that where I guess something was a little bit unexpected, or where they played with the romantic comedy drama genre a little bit. And one of them was for me after he sleeps with the bar singer, they get into kind of he and Scarlett Johansson get
Tiff.
into kind of like a mini fight in
Yeah,
their relationship. It's kind of like this is this is a microcosm of a relationship, but we're going to show them going through ups and downs still.
yeah.
They kind of have a bit of a silent treatment lunch, which they then use to make up with each other by both agreeing that the lunch was pretty terrible.
which
Um,
which I think is
and,
really like mature in a
mhm,
way. Like it's totally fine for them to fight and all that kind of stuff, because like it's kind of betrayal in a way of like, hey, I thought we were connecting.
yeah,
Not that I wanted to have sex with you or anything, but I thought we were connecting. And who is this? Who's this bitch? You know?
I think throughout the film they're both simultaneously like realizing some level of attraction for each other, realizing that this isn't like a normal relationship. This isn't a normal connection that they're having,
Yeah.
and realizing whether or not that means that they can break or follow certain rules of a
Right.
relationship. And so they have a fight. They make up at the end. And then at the very end of the movie, when they have their kind of final goodbye in the crowd, I was surprised that like they did straight up kiss.
Yeah.
It didn't feel like dirty in a sense that, oh, they're cheating on their significant others or anything, just because at this point in the movie has succeeded in convincing you that this relationship is a about more than romance, about more than sex. Like they're not really kissing for that reason. It's more just like they are signifying what this meant to each other.
Yeah. And that's my last note here on like iconic favorite shots is just the whole last scene, period. Him getting into the cab, him seeing her down the street, chasing her down, and them having their final embrace
Mm-hmm.
in the street amidst the chaos of, the Tokyo city streets is just so well executed, and all to be, finally punctuated with the Jesus and Mary chain, just like honey, is so great. It's just a great scene, and that's a great transition into the soundtrack. We already talked about this a little bit, but um, yeah, definitely the sister soundtrack to this being Garden State, which came out around the same time. It's that moody, melancholic. It feels kind of like a mixtape that your friend made for you.
Mm-hmm.
This was my first kind of exposure, like active exposure into the genre of dream pop. I don't know if you've ever heard that, Joe.
Give me an example.
So dream pop is the songs that are in there. It's the sometimes in there by My Bloody Valentine. It's Just Like Honey by Jesus and Mary Chain. It's like gritty guitars, but really the delicate vocals is what sets it
Mm-hmm.
apart. Rich textures, very vinyl worthy is a thing that I come to it. Like if you're gonna buy a vinyl record, it would be one of those two, the My Bloody Valentine or Jesus and Mary Chain. Any of those records like play well to it because it kind of fits the indie feeling of the movie. It kind of has that atmospheric kind of thing, and so a note: the lead singer of My Bloody Valentine, Kevin Shields, did several pieces. I think 4 unique tracks for the movie. Sophia and he worked together to kind of
Mm-hmm.
create some of the stuff, and it's kind of that emotional kind of vibey kind of stuff. And
It the
I
the
just fucking
movie
dig it.
feels like an album in the way that it builds, and
Definitely.
the way that you're supposed to interpret it based off of how you're hearing and seeing things, and so it only makes sense that like its soundtrack would
Mm.
have a
Yeah.
level of significance.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, one last thing I wanted to talk about before we wrap things up and I get some of your final thoughts. Joe, what does Bob whisper to Charlotte at the very end? What is your interpretation? Even though if you watch it with um, closed captioning on, it says just inaudible dialogue. And
This
it was
is
on purpose.
this is obviously one of the things that I did know about this movie, just because that's kind of the iconic shot.
Hmm.
Is him whispering something to her that is hidden from the audience, and so it's very much left up to interpretation. I found myself trying to obviously listen in and hear like what he was saying. I think it's like we talked about with a um, midlife crisis running into a quarter life crisis,
Yeah.
and them kind of shaking hands, forming this connection, much in the same way that 50-year-old Bill Murray is acting alongside 17-year-old Scarlett Johansson, an older actor acting with a less experienced actor in the industry.
Yep.
So I think, as a character on screen, but also maybe as coworkers, he's kind of giving her advice in a
Yeah.
way, being like, I've kind of gotten onto the other side of where you're at. Here's what you can expect going forward.
That's what I really take from it, and that's what I want it to be. Clever audiophiles across the internet broke this years ago of what
Mhm.
he's actually saying. They were able to like boost the levels.
Mhm.
So what he actually is whispering to her is, "I have to be leaving, but I won't let that come between us, okay?"
Mhm.
She says, "Okay," and then they kiss, and then they leave, and that's kind of implying that they're going to continue a relationship, be it romantic or not, down the line. And I do kind of like that, but I wish it was more of like kind of like a summation of kind of the conversations that they had previously of, like, hey, I've been where you've been. You're going to figure it out and you're going to be okay.
Yeah, I
And
think
that's
it's a weird credit to the film that we both, upon like hearing this inaudible dialogue, like didn't really think of it in a romantic sense, like in a, hey, meet me at the hotel again.
Yeah.
You
No.
know, I I I think it makes more sense to interpret that as more of a culmination of these two, ships in the night that they have been throughout this whole film, rather than a continuation of any sort of romantic relationship.
Yeah. So like the conversation that they have in bed, like a day or two prior to him leaving, um, he's like, the more you kind of know who you are, the less you let things upset you. He talks about the magic of having kids and all that kind of stuff. And, eventually you'll be fine. You'll figure it out. And I think that's the through line that they do share a kiss. They share romantic um, bits here and there, but it's more of the emotional kind of connection that they have. And it's less sexual. It's less of that traditional romantic kind of feelings. And that's what I take away from it. And that's what I hold in my heart about like how the movie ended. And I think it's really great. And I think that's the power that Sophia Coppola brought to the table of just like, let's leave this open to interpretation. Everyone can kind of take their own way with it.
Hmm.
But yeah, that's what I got from it.
There's so much to interpret with this film. I think we're only scratching like 10% of it, and the rest of it is lost in
Drag.
translation.
Oh, you did it. You
Full
said it.
circle. We didn't even talk about Anna Faris in this movie, and we won't talk about Anna Faris in this movie, but she's pretty great.
I'm sure Anna Faris is going to. Is it Anna? It's Anna.
It's Anna, yeah.
Anna Faris, like from Frozen. Great. Anna
Yeah.
Faris is essentially her character from Just Friends, but just like before she hit it big. Samantha, whatever the heck. Yeah, she was waiting to sing for forgiveness. It's great. But yeah, I think she played a great role too.
I think her role in the film just goes to show how deeply you are into a non movie of this genre, because she may have like fit right in a normal romantic comedy, but she
Agreed.
like pops out so glaringly hard in
Yeah,
this film, and maybe that's purposeful.
it really does. Yeah, I think it was on purpose. It's great. So yeah, Joe, final thoughts before we hop into our end games here. What were some of the things you took away? What were some last minute things you want to say about it from your thesis?
I think this movie is about very um focused pinpoint moments of connection, and I think not only do the characters experience that, but the audience experience it in their relationship with the movie. That is my ultimate thesis
Hmm.
in so many words.
I love that. Yeah, it's definitely the connection that we have to it as well in sharing a lot of the similar things that they're going through. Well
Mhm.
said, Joe. So, without further ado, here we are. We're at the end. We're at end games. I hinted this to you before we started recording. I too was going through what you were going through last week of panic, of coming up against the clock of what am I going to do for Joe with this game, and I explained the dilemma to my wife Ryan, and she was more than gracious to help, and she lent more than 50% um, of her contribution to this game. So Joe, I'm really sorry.
I'm so terrified.
It should be fun, and I like that we kind of shift every so often. There's bits of trivia in here. There's bits of thinking quick on your feet. But
Mhm.
before we go any further, I landed on the name of what I wanted this game to be before it became what it is. But
Okay.
yeah, let's get into it. Here we go. Here's the intro track that I obsessed over for a week. Bill Murray Karaoke is in
God damn
fact the
it,
name of
Dustin.
the game. And just want to let you know that this definitely has nothing to do with Bill Murray. I just came up with the name and I stuck with it. Ryan is adamant that Bill Murray and karaoke don't rhyme, but
Bill Murray karaoke. Yeah, I don't know.
it works in the song. So I'm sticking to my guns there. Joe,
Justin,
what
was that Dream Pop?
that was Dream Pop.
That
Yeah.
sounded amazing.
Thank you. I took 100% cue from Jesus and Mary Chain. The last track of the movie is Just Like Honey.
Perfect.
Even so much from the intonation of how you say Just Like Honey with Bill Murray. Um, yeah, so what we did, and this was Ryan's idea. Um, are you familiar with Google Translate, Joe? The tool from Google?
I have it open as a tab whenever I visit a foreign country and need to ask for, a croissant or something.
Croissant. I
A
love that.
croissant?
So what we did, Joe, I got 5 questions here for this particular round, and then we'll move to a second section.
Oh,
What we
wow.
did, we took iconic lyrics from love songs across the decades, took them from English and plugged them in to Google Translate, and back and forth ad nauseum until we ended up with some semblance of nonsense. Um, that wasn't super working, but then we found this little online tool called the Text Obfuscator, and
Mhm.
it does it for you.
So like a psycho version of telephone.
Correct. From one language to another, back into English, and it gets unintelligible at times. But some of these are pretty easy. So, with these questions, I'm going to give them to you. I'm going to read the lyrics
hmm
as they have been obfuscated to hell and back.
The word
And
of the day is obfuscated, kids.
welcome, yes, to the Uncultured Street. They were obfuscated to hell and back. If you can name it off the bat without needing multiple choice, you'll get a bonus point.
Okay.
But if you need the multiple choice, you can have that, but you're not going to get the bonus added 2-point bonus to it.
So am I naming the original lyric or the song?
The song.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. You ready? All right. Again, this is Bill Murray karaoke or Lost in Translation karaoke, which has nothing to do with Bill Murray. All right.
Mhm.
Ready? Here we go. Number 1. I don't want to have an intelligent conversation. I don't want to work so hard. I just want someone to talk to. I want you as you are.
No, fuck. I don't want to have an intelligent conversation. I don't want to work so hard. I just want someone to talk to.
Mm-hmm.
I want you as you are.
Correct. Yes. Can you name it off your head, or do you want the multiple choice?
I think like other song lyrics are coming in and like disrupting me. I want the multiple choice on this one.
Okay. Is it "Come as You Are" by Nirvana?
Hmm.
Is it "As You Are" by Daughtry? Or is it "Just the Way You Are" by Billy Joel?
Oh, Justin. I've heard one of those songs. So I am going to pick I think one of those songs is a love song, so I'm going to pick Just the Way You Are by Billy Joel.
You'd be correct. That's 2 points right there.
Okay.
You could have had 4, but you got 2 points.
Yeah, there's no goddamn way I'm getting that one.
Yeah, the original lyrics were, I don't want clever conversation. I never want to work that hard. I just want someone that I can talk to. I want you just the way you are. See? You see how the game's played? Great.
That makes sense. Okay.
Yep. Number 2. Darling, I'm surprised you always love me. And maybe I'm afraid of how I love you.
Darling, I'm surprised you always love me.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe I'm afraid of how I love you. So I'm kind of like, is a way to tackle this to like just like do a Joey from Friends and just figure out synonyms for every word or something?
We almost did that. That's how we were almost going to do this. Yeah.
Say it again. Sorry.
Darling, I'm surprised you always love me, and maybe I'm afraid of how I love you. There are people at home screaming the answer into their car stereo right now.
I'm surprised you always loved me.
Just love, not past tense.
You always love me. I'm going to need the multiple choice.
Okay,
Justin,
that's
I'm
fine.
terrible at this.
It's fine. It's fine. That's why I only did 5, because this is hard. Is it "If I Fell" by the Beatles? Is it Maybe I'm Amazed by Paul McCartney? Or is it Woman by John Lennon?
I'm gonna say Maybe I'm Amazed by Paul McCartney.
You'd be correct. The original lyric is Baby, I'm amazed at the way you love me all the time.
Yeah, that makes
Maybe
sense.
I'm afraid of the way I love you. Yep.
That makes sense. Okay, I got you.
Okay, here we go. Number 3. Love can touch us once, and it lasts forever, and never give up till we're gone.
Okay, I definitely know this. Hang on.
Give me the answer.
Hang on. Love can touch us once and last forever and never give up till we're gone.
Yep. Go with your instinct. You know the answer.
Is it somehow like Never Pull Us Apart?
No.
Not that song?
Nope. That's fine. I'll give you the multiple choice.
Give me the multiple choice.
Is it My Heart Will Go On by Celine Dion?
It's My Heart Will Go On by Celine Dion.
Ah, okay. I had a whole bunch of Celine Dion songs for you to choose
Damn
from.
it. Even the ones I should get, I'm not getting.
Hey, see, you just got to go with your instinct here.
This is like breaking my brain.
Okay. Number 4. Just give me a reason. Nothing but a heartbreak. Just give me a reason. It is not a mistake. Just give me a reason. I never want to hear what you say. I wanted.
Isn't there a Pink song called Just Give Me a Reason?
There might be. I don't know.
Is that not it?
That's not it.
Okay. Give it to me one more time.
Just give me a reason. Nothing but heartbreak. Just give me a reason. It is not a mistake. Just give me a reason. I never want to hear what you say. I wanted.
Alex, I'm going to go for the 4 points here. This is... I'm trying to find the title of it. I know the song. Oh. It's I Want It That Way.
It is.
Yes.
100%.
I was
By the
like,
Backstreet
going
Boys.
through the lyrics. I was like, which one is the title?
Yeah, you got it. Yeah, it's Tell Me Why. Ain't nothing but a heartache. Tell me
Is
why.
that what it's called?
Yeah, ain't nothing but a mistake. Tell me why. I never want to hear you say, I want it that way. Yeah.
Nailed it. Okay.
Last one of these, really, really hard ones. Do anything for love, whatever you dreamed about, but I wouldn't do it.
Do anything for love, whatever
Mhm.
you dreamed about.
But I wouldn't
I
do it.
wouldn't do it.
Yep.
We can't have this much silent
Multiple
on my
choice.
air. Give me the multiple choice.
Is it All Out of Love by Air Supply? Is it Total Eclipse of the Heart from Bonnie Taylor? Or is it I'd Do Anything for Love, but I Won't Do That by Meatloaf?
That last one is absolutely it.
100%. That's 2 points right there. Joe, you got 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 points there. Well done. Now we're moving on to the finish the lyric portion.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
I'm going to give you the name of the song and the artist.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to read you the lyrics, and I want you to finish the lyric for me. It's going to be multiple choice. Again, it can be, if you don't need multiple choice and you fill it in, you get bonus points.
And are these are the original lyrics we're past?
These are the original lyrics. We're done with the obfuscation.
Okay.
Okay. This is from 1997, Joe. You were but 3 years old. This is Savage Garden's I Need You. You ready?
Okay.
Anytime I see your face, I just close my eyes, and I'm taken to a place where your crystal mind and magenta feelings take up shelter in the base of my spine, sweet like a... what? You need multiple choice?
Sweet like a lime. Yes, I need multiple choice.
Is it sweet like a chocolate cherry milkshake? Is it sweet like a Chicka Cherry Cola? Or is it sweet like a Dr. Pepper soda?
I think people were singing a lot about cherry cola back then. I'm going to say Chicka Cherry Cola.
You'd be right. Yeah. 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 All right. Here we go. Next one. This is from Hootie and the Blowfish. I Only Want to Be With You. You and me, we come from different worlds. You laugh at me when I look at other girls. Sometimes you're crazy and you wonder why. I'm such a baby 'cause the blank. make me cry?
I only know the I only want to be with you part of this song.
Ah,
Hang on. Because the song Make Me Cry.
okay. Multiple choice here. Is it doggies? Is it dolphins? Or is it birdies?
I'm going to say Doggies.
Doggies? You'd be wrong.
Ah, damn it.
It's the dolphins. I'm such a baby because the dolphins make me cry. Is he talking about the sports team? I'm not sure. We don't know.
If you're a
Uh,
big enough fan, yeah.
Yeah. Number 3, Maroon 5, This Love from
Okay.
2002. This love has taken its toll on me. She said blank too many times before.
The answer is Goodbye.
All right, 4 points right there. Joe made up for that missed point above.
Nailed
Number number 4, we have Adele's Hello from 2015. Hello, it's me. I was wondering if after all these years you'd like to meet to go over blank.
Everything.
Oh yeah, number 4. Joe, you got it there with 4
No
points.
one was a bigger Hello fan than me, if you can believe it.
2015, get out of here.
Mm-hmm.
Number 5, Taylor Swift's Love Story from 2008. Romeo, take me somewhere we can blank. I'll be waiting, and that's all there, and all there's left to do is run. You'll be the prince, and I'll be the princess. It's a love story, baby. Just say yes.
Be Alone.
Ooh, 4. Man, I wish somewhere we can kiss and hug, or be on our own, or be alone. It's be alone. You
Yeah.
nailed it, Joe.
Yeah.
Well
kind of
done.
towards the end.
You did admirably there at the end. I'm very impressed.
I'm
We have
really starting to realize how much of my song memory is specifically only triggered by the actual song playing. Like I could not tell you lyrics unless like it's actually being sung. Weird
yeah.
how things work.
I was going to sing it to you, but I don't want to do that to you or to our audience.
I don't know if these mic qualities would help us.
They wouldn't, I know. So we're in the bonus round. We got a couple ones. I'm just going to fire off. This is lightning round.
Okay.
5 points each if you can get them. This is just going to be a name that tune.
Okay.
I have my ukulele here, Joe.
We're really going to try something this episode.
And I tested it earlier and it worked out. It worked a little bit. So we'll see what happens. Joe, can you name this song for 5 points?
Doom, 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 doom. Need You Tonight.
Yep, by NXS. Well done. All right. Next one. I'm going to skip that one. We're just going to do 2. Here we go.
This is so impressive, by the way.
Yeah, nope, that's out of tune. Is that it?
It's part of the bit. Just go with it.
Part of the bit.
I don't know this one.
If I said I would walk 500 miles, would you?
Oh,
would you know?
damn. Yes.
Yeah, there you go. Joe, you got 1 out of 2 there for the bonus round.
You got 2 out of 3 for the bonus round.
Yeah, the other one, I thought I was going to try and play Levy and Rose, but I don't know if you would get it. So anyway, but I know you love In Excess, so
There you go.
yeah, that was Bill Murray karaoke, everybody, which
So
again
that
had
was
nothing to do with Bill Murray.
intense.
Yeah, you did really well though.
I
I'm
feel like
impressed.
we keep trying to top each other with the games that we are creating for this podcast, and I am like excited and terrified to see where this goes.
It's only going to get way worse,
Yeah.
But yeah, we did it. That is Lost in Translation, episode 11, and yeah, Joe, give me some final thoughts on what you loved about this movie.
Final thoughts. I'm glad I have expanded my Sofia Coppola viewport a bit here, and I'm excited to watch some of her other films. I
Me
am
too.
really interested in, I think, Somewhere is supposed to be good, and then the Virgin Suicides, right?
Yep,
I want to
yep.
check those out.
Yeah, I need to go back and check that out because if she can bring this kind of heat to the theater. I want to go back and go through her whole catalog.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that was Lost in Translation. This was a fun one. Not your non-traditional love story, romantic comedy drama from 2003. A Bill Murray jam, a young Scarlett Johansson jam.
We really got deep in our critiques here. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I expect your thesis on my desk Monday morning.
I'm so bad at typing papers.
Minimum 5 pages, Joe, not double spaced. Cool. So, do you want to tease out a little bit of what your movie's going to
Yeah.
be?
So continuing and closing out the love theme for February, I will be making Justin watch a film that I actually came to pretty late in my life, but it's had a big impact on me, and I'm really excited to talk about how this movie talks about love.
Ooh,
So we will be watching When Harry Met Sally.
ooh! I'm so glad you teased it out. I thought you were going to leave it at that, but that's great. I haven't seen that either. We all know that there's those iconic kind of scenes, but I'm really excited to dive into it.
This is a movie where every single scene has something to chew on, and I'm really excited to talk through it all.
I can't wait. So yes, folks, check us out on Instagram at UCU Podcast in the coming weeks and such for teases about the next episode and some goodies that fell out of this one. Obviously, our highly sought after cocktail recipes will be in there and some cool highlights. But yeah, keep up with us, and we'll catch you guys a little bit later. Joe, it's been a pleasure.
Justin, as always, it's been great.
All right. Take it easy, everybody.